I understand that as an athlete, that there may be some mistakes that are made. So these guys are definitely approaching some new challenges that nobody has gone through. You know, growing up, we watched Manti Te'o, Marcus Mariota, DeForest Buckner, guys that all went on to, be really successful at the college level, but also the NFL. But, particular to me, being a quarterback and Marcus being a quarterback, I think that, was even more of a connection of, seeing someone go do it and having a great role model and how he represented himself, but also how he played on the field.
Was there ever a moment when you were growing up that he had a camp or he was present at something that you were able to be a younger kid and have him say something or do something that really impacted you?
Yeah, I remember when I was at my elementary school, Holy Family Catholic Academy, and we had like a jump rope for heart, which was basically, you jump rope and, basically spread awareness on heart disease. And we had like local celebrities or influencers at the time to come out and, jump rope with us. I remember Marcus coming there, and I just remember getting a picture with him after. But just little things like that, always stick with me, and always remind myself that there's a little version of myself that also believes and has hope to play at the next level.
You had a game we were talking about before we started filming. You played Tua in high school, but only got to play 2 quarters against him, which is kind of a bummer.
Yeah, so it's kind of a funny story. I remember, warming up and getting ready to go. I think it was the first game of the year, honestly. We're warming up, and we end up getting out there and, played a quarter, played maybe a half of the second quarter, and the lights, go out. But, we get an announcement that the lights will be coming back on here shortly. And the game wasn't out of hand yet. So, Tua's got the ball, he goes down and scores, but the lights go out again. And, maybe it was a blessing in disguise, but, they ended up canceling the game right before half. And it's just a funny story now, knowing that the lights had went out when I was able to play Tua.
You've not gotten a rematch yet in college.
Haven't gotten a rematch, but, it's just a funny story we'll always look back on. And it's funny you bring that up because, we always talk about it when I go back home.
You sent through the high school ranks. I believe you broke the all-time passing yards record in Hawaii.
I did.
But funny, legend.
So cool fact. So when, I had started out, Tua had broke the record his senior year. Then as I was playing, obviously my senior year ended up breaking the record as well. But even cooler is Jaren Sagapolutele, a quarterback at Campbell High School. He just had broke the record. So it's a cool lineage, and 3 lefty quarterbacks back to back to back.
Kind of like that.
So maybe there's some lefties spinning it in the state of Hawaii, but I just think it's super cool to see the game continue to elevate, and these guys play at a high level. And that's what Tua did. He set the standard. And I was able to have my experience, and then Jaren's doing it as well. So
where's he heading next year?
He's committed to Cal right now. Yep.
That's going to be a big get.
It is.
Your recruiting process is fascinating. You end up winding up at UCF, where I believe you played high school football with Mackenzie, and then also play college football.
Yep.
You replaced him for injury at both spots.
Yeah, it's a crazy story, but I am a big believer in God and, being right where you need to be, and, being able to learn from Mackenzie his senior year in high school and my freshman year. He ended up getting injured, and I played and got pulled up to varsity. So having a guy like him, supporting you and kind of walking you through, and showing you the ropes of how to, be a quarterback at that level was a great experience. And then when I was able to double back and do it at the college level, it's an experience I'll never, ever take for granted, or just extremely blessed to have that, relationship. He's my big bro, and a guy I still talk to this day. But, the experiences you have in college, and especially playing the quarterback position, he was right by my side, and seeing him go through what he was going through, and the strength, the mental strength, but also the continuous grind physically to get to a point where he got back on the field. It's something that, I'm so glad to be a part of that journey, because you see a guy who's, fought to get where he's been at, and yeah, it's probably the most special relationship you could have, and not only because of the football side, but just him being a big brother to me.
What's the number one thing you would say that you learned from him, either on or off the field?
I would just say with Mackenzie, he's always been a baller and has done whatever it takes to win, but just even better person. You see the kind of guy he is in the locker room, and how people gravitate towards him. It's something that is so genuine and natural for him. And, I think I took that from him, and how he was able to, rally the troops and get guys behind him, but also instill belief in the people that, are going out to play with him. So, you see that, and you just are grateful to be around that. And like I said, those, 3 years in college, but also the time in high school, that's a guy I literally got to watch, on two levels and see him grow, but also him be able to do the same for me. So, it goes way back, and someone we're able to just be ourselves with.
How have you been able to invest your money and put it away so far? Because I think that's something that a lot of athletes find themselves with an amount of capital that you probably never thought you'd have at this point. And so how have you navigated that?
Yeah, well, as college athletes, we honestly have a lot of things that are already taken care of for us. And that starts with meals. You really shouldn't be spending too much money on meals. Housing, we get a monthly housing check, on top of, our scholarship, checks that we still already get. So I think if you utilize your money in the right way, you really shouldn't be spending much at all. But on top of that, I'll go back to just having the right people in your corner. I was able to connect with people that, are very trustworthy, and people that I've known and were vetted by other people that I trust. So it's important to have those kind of people around your money, and making sure that it's continuing to help you down the road. And then also living a life that is what you need, and not what's necessarily always what you want, right? And I'm low maintenance, so that's been easy for me, but definitely understand, it can be difficult.
I think it speaks to how much you love what you're doing.
What's difficult too to be aware of is just athletes that are coming in, and at 18 years old, maybe even younger, are finding themselves, but also now being in a honestly professional setting of getting paid, and playing the game of football that they love. I think it's just a transition from high school, and you kind of learn that. But I understand that as an athlete that's kind of gone through it, that there may be some mistakes that are made, but as long as they learn from them and have the right people in their corner, I think universities have done a great job at educating players, and trying to help them out as much as possible. And I'm very thoughtful of those guys, and young guys coming in that have to make adult decisions while trying to find themselves, and going to college, and having that experience. There's a lot they're juggling, and I say this as me myself, but I was able to have that experience as a young age, where I didn't have NIL, or I kind of learned, the thing on the fly. So these guys are definitely, approaching some new challenges that nobody has gone through. So just things to think about for, guys that are going through it.
When it's all over, what do you hope your legacy that you leave on this game is?
Yeah, just a guy who's never taken a day for granted, and appreciated, the people he's been around. Um, Always made the environment better, the morale better, had a bunch of fun, playing the game. Also a person that is a leader and is a winner, and that's in every area of my life. More importantly than the player, I want them to know as a person that I supported them and loved them through the journeys together, and all the teammates I've played with. Just having that impact on them, I think that's something that will live on beyond football.